Hello, everyone. We are Group 8, and we decided to do a report on Samsung Galaxy smartphones. My name is Omar.
I'm Michael.
I'm Mohammed.
I'm Gabriel.
I'm Dom.
What is the purpose of our research? The purpose of our research is to help Samsung understand smartphone users and what goes on in their mind when selecting a smartphone, therefore leading them into making better product decisions. The target population. Our target population included people who own a Samsung Galaxy smartphone ranging from the ages of 18 to 30. We also included people who do not own a Samsung Galaxy but own a smartphone, more particularly an iPhone, since they are more popular. Again, with the same age range, this was done to see what Samsung Galaxy users like and what other smartphone users like about their smartphone brand. Therefore, to see what components Samsung Galaxy is missing to reach that competitive advantage.
Decision problems. Why are Samsung Galaxy sales dropping? What can be done to return sales to previous levels and regain market share? Next. Research problems. What is the current level of current satisfaction with the customer with Samsung smartphone? How is Samsung perceived by the target market? What features do customers want in future products? Next.
So for our qualitative research, we each conducted an in-depth interview of someone within our target population between the ages of 18 to 30. And but we interviewed both males and females, and we wanted to make sure we had a variation in brand of smartphones, so we got a variety of perspectives. Next slide.
So taking a dive into these interviews, Clara, an iPhone user, said that she hates Samsung and stated that it was because the company doesn't have iPhone exclusive apps. This brought to our attention the importance of the smartphone features. On top of that, Ashley, another iPhone user, said she didn't see a reason to switch because her whole family uses iPhones and they've always used iPhones. This brought to our attention the idea of brand loyalty. Next slide. Sebastian, a 21-year-old iPhone user, said that his entire family has the same phone and service plan, which is why they all have iPhones right now. They actually all switched from Samsung because of the popularity of the iPhone. On top of that, Gus is an Android user, and he highlighted the importance of service provider as well. However, he also highlighted how important the Android camera was to him, which is an important feature. Lastly, Paula, a Galaxy owner, praised the pen and easy navigation of her Galaxy phone, just highlighting the smartphone features once again. And she also highlighted the production ethics, specs, and camera of the Galaxy as well. Next slide.
Hypothesis. Hypothesis 1, smartphone users use phones based on the features important to them. Hypothesis 2, smartphone users choose phones based on convenience of usage. Hypothesis 3, smartphone users are brand loyal and brand loyalty is often influenced by family. Hypothesis 4, a user's service provider has a limited impact on smartphone choice. Next slide. Qualtrics survey. So the procedure was we created a Qualtrics survey to test the hypotheses we reached through our qualitative data. Through personal connections, we found people within our target population to send the survey out to. Through this process, we gathered 57 responses and then performed an analysis to see if our hypothesis was accurate or not. Next slide.
So taking a look at the psychographic data from our survey, we had 57 people take our survey. And looking specifically at the ethnicity, age, education, and marital status of the people that did survey, it appears to match the Cal Poly student body, which makes sense because we sent out the survey through personal connections, and most of our personal connections are people who go to this school. On top of that, the gender was skewed towards the male at 64.9% of the people that took the survey were male. And surprisingly, the employment distribution was very even amongst full-time, part-time, seeking or not seeking opportunities. Next slide. So potential errors here, human errors. Some people put they were retired, even though nobody over the age of 30 took the survey. Not everybody answered all of the questions. We did not measure subconscious bias, such as the endowment effect, where people have a bias towards items that they already own. And most of all, a 17-year-old who's outside of our segment, our target segment, took the survey. And lastly, 96.5% of the people that took our survey were iPhone users, and only 3.5% were Samsung users, which is a big issue considering that we were trying to get information about Samsung. Next slide.
Okay, so hypothesis one. Hypothesis one identifies if smartphone users use their phones based on the features important to them. This was reflected by the 57 respondents that were retrieved from our Qualtrics survey. Of the 57 respondents, all owned a smartphone, and 61% agreed that features were important to them when selecting a phone. 28% strongly agreed, while 8% didn't agree nor disagree. Lastly, we can see that 2% disagreed. They didn't believe that the features were important. The mean we got from the 57 respondents is 4.49 with a standard deviation of 0.72, meaning that on average, people strongly agreed that the features were important to them and that there is a limited variation in the population.
Hypothesis 2, which states smartphone users choose phones based on convenience of usage, was supported by the response given. We found that most of our respondents felt that it was important for a smartphone to be easy and convenient for them to communicate with friends and family in easy and accessible ways. Of the 57 respondents, 44% rated it important and 23% rated it very important. In addition, most respondents agreed that iMessage application should be implemented in all smartphones, with 42% of the respondents agreeing and 26% strongly agreeing. This also supports our hypothesis that most users want features such as iMessage that allows them to communicate quick and easily. Next slide.
Hypothesis 3 states that smartphone users are brand loyal and brand loyalty is often influenced by family or friends. Considering, and the survey question that went with this was, considering your experience with your smartphone, how likely would you be to recommend it to friends or family? And out of the 57 respondents, we here see that 53% are very likely, 30% are likely, roughly 11% are neutral, 2% are unlikely, and 5% are very unlikely. And based off of our 57 respondents, we found that hypothesis 3 had a mean of 4.2 and a standard deviation of 1.7, which means that on average, people would likely recommend their smartphone to a family or friend. Next.
So hypothesis 4, again, is a user service provider has a limited impact on their smartphone choice. So first, when looking at this, we must look at which service providers people have. AT&T was the leading response from our respondees, and Verizon and T-Mobile were following closely behind them. So the main point in the survey that tests hypothesis 4 was in which we put out the statement that service provider has an impact on my smartphone choice. And the most popular answer was disagree, and following closely behind that was neither agree or disagree, with agree being the third most popular answer. So the mean of that question was 2.9, and the standard deviation was 1. And this demonstrates that most stayed towards the middle ground and didn't have a strong feeling either way. And this shows that while service provider can have an impact on smartphone choice, it often doesn't have a large impact on smartphone choice on average. Next slide, please. So to kind of sum up all of our findings, we first found that smartphone users are extremely brand loyal and they are very unlikely to change. So it's hard for them to switch brands. And in addition to that, we found, based on our psychographic data, that employment status did not have an impact on the brand of smartphone that one might own, which is interesting because it affects the amount of money that they may make. And in addition to that, we found that service providers, while they may have some impact, have a limited impact on consumer smartphone choice. And in addition to that, we found that smartphone users do agree that features are very important in their smartphone choice, such as camera, size, quality, things of that nature. And then lastly, we found that convenience of usage does play a prominent role in smartphone choice. Next slide. So based on all these findings and based on all analysis, we have some recommendations for Samsung to implement. First, we think that Samsung should find a way to integrate their products to be compatible with iMessage and FaceTime. And while this seems interesting when looking at it first, we think that this would be a good way for Samsung users to become more popular, because so many iPhone users are saying that they wouldn't switch over to Samsung because so many people are iPhone users and it's hard to communicate them without having features such as iMessage and FaceTime and being able to use those features with their counterparts. And in addition to that, we think that Samsung should focus on advertising directly to the consumer rather than through service provider companies, because service provider does have a limited impact on smartphone choice. So we think that going directly to the consumer would be more effective in advertising, such as on TV ads and through in-store advertisements. And in addition to that, we think that Samsung should offer incentives for families to purchase smart Samsung products together. So this would ideally, if goes well, we think it would get Samsung products in the hands of children today, which would make them the next generation of smartphone users, because we found that people are extremely brand loyal and that family does have a large impact on which smartphone you pick. So if we can get families to be Samsung users, then that would be effective long term. And lastly, we think that Samsung should continue to focus on what they've been doing, keep having quality features and keep improving on that and adding on that, because we found that smartphone features do have a large impact on smartphone choice. So thank you for listening today.